You always say you're a smart guy, right? My name's Douglas. I was 34, working inventory management at Ashmere Outfitters in Billings, Montana. That question came from my wife, Lydia, as she sat with her sister Sophia in the front seat of our Honda, engine idling. I stood beside a derelict gas station in the middle of nowhere, clutching a gas can we'd supposedly needed to fill. The prank began innocently enough. We'd been driving back from Sophia's place in Missoula when Lydia pulled over at this abandoned station, 50 miles from anything. She claimed the car was making a strange noise, asked me to check the engine while she and Sophia grabbed drinks from the cooler. I'd been under the hood for barely 2 minutes when the doors slammed. "Douglas," Lydia called, her voice laced with laughter. "We're gonna test how smart you really are." I straightened, wiping grease on my jeans. "What's that mean?" Sophia giggled from the passenger seat. They'd been scheming all weekend, whispering in corners, exchanging sly glances. I'd assumed it was about my birthday next week. Maybe a family surprise. "You're always boasting you could survive anywhere," Lydia said, shifting the car into drive. "Always reading those survival magazines, glued to those wilderness shows. Now's your chance to prove it." The gas can grew heavy in my hands. "Lydia, what are you doing?" "Teaching you a lesson." She tossed something out the window. My wallet hit the gravel. "No phone, no cash, no ride. But you're such a smart guy, you'll figure it out." I scanned the horizon, endless prairie grass, a few crumbling buildings, distant mountains. The nearest town was 30 miles back, maybe 40 ahead. "This isn't funny," I said. "It's hilarious," Sophia chirped. "Your face is priceless." Lydia revved the engine. "Maybe next time you won't act like you know it all. See you at home, genius." They peeled away, a dust cloud trailing them down the 2-lane road. I watched the Honda vanish over a hill, then retrieved my wallet empty except for my license and a faded business card from a feed store where I'd bought supplies for Lydia's garden last spring. The sun hung low, the air already chilling. Night would be cold. I'd camped before, sure, but always with gear, never blindsided, never as punishment for something I couldn't name. I headed for the station, seeking shelter. Its windows were boarded, but a loading dock out back might block the wind. Behind it, a dumpster reeked of oil and decay. That's where I spent my first night as a changed man. I'd met Lydia 5 years earlier at a company picnic. She worked at the county assessor's office, her confidence making everything seem straightforward. After my dad's death left me adrift, her certainty drew me in. We married after a year, and she moved into my rental on Billings' south side. For a time, life felt stable. Her salary was solid, my outfitter job steady. Not lavish, but we weren't scraping by. Trouble crept in, subtle snide remarks about my job, how I was squandering potential in retail. When I floated ideas about starting a business or learning a trade, Lydia's eyes would glaze, as if I were chasing fantasies. "You're not an entrepreneur, Douglas," she'd say. "You're good at following orders. Stick to that." Sophia fueled it. After her divorce, she'd returned to Montana, landing a marketing job in Missoula. She'd regale Lydia with tales of high-flying clients, making my wife feel she'd settled for a man counting stock. My survival hobby rooted in hunting with Dad became a refuge. After he passed, I devoured bushcraft books, watched videos on living off the land, not to vanish into the wild but to feel grounded. Lydia despised it, called it childish escapism. Camping suggestions earned eye rolls. Mentions of tracking or fire starting were brushed off. I should have seen the signs. Her disinterest in my days, her growing time with Sophia, her third-person jabs in front of friends. "Douglas fancies himself a mountain man," she'd laugh, lost in a dream world. The truth was plain. I'd been chasing approval from someone who'd written me off. I'd started believing her version of Miss More Limited. But crouched behind that dumpster, coyotes howling across the prairie, I realized something. Maybe Lydia was right about one thing. I'd find out how smart I was, just not as she'd planned. I woke, stiff, chilled, back against the concrete dock. Dawn broke over the mountains, cattle lowing faintly north. My mouth tasted of dust and regret. I took stock, wallet with license, useless car keys, clothes, a forgotten matchbook from a diner. Slim, but enough. The cattle sound suggested a ranch 2 miles off. I started walking. The rancher, Clayton Phillips, was feeding horses when I trudged up his drive, rough from the night. "Car trouble?" he asked, wary but kind. I gave the partial truth. My wife stranded me as a prank. I needed to reach town. I skipped the part about her lesson in humility. Clayton eyed me. "That's some prank. Hungry?" Over breakfast, eggs, bacon, coffee, warming the kitchen, he asked about my work. When I mentioned Ashmere Outfitters, he nodded. "No, it hunt much." Used to with my dad. Cattle. Ever work livestock? I shook my head. Not really. Why? He leaned back. I'm sure. My guy's out with a bad back, and I've got a herd to move next week. Pays fair if you're game to learn. Something stirred in me, maybe his tone, like my answer mattered, or the contrast of his warm kitchen to the dumpster's stench. I'm game, I said. That afternoon, Clayton drove me to town to retrieve my car and face Lydia. She was on the couch, eyes on the TV. How was your adventure? Genius, she asked, not looking up. Educational, I replied. She glanced over, catching the edge in my voice. Learn your lesson. Yeah, I said, but not the one you meant. I'd learned that when someone strips you bare, what remains is who you are. Some help strangers, others abandon their own for laughs. I packed a bag, told Lydia I was taking the ranch job, staying in Clayton's bunkhouse. You're running away, she said. No, I countered. I'm running toward something. I called in sick to Mia drove to the ranch, and by sunrise, Clayton had me herding cattle, teaching me to read their cues, move them calmly. It was tough but fulfilling, unlike counting stock. 3 days later, Lydia called. When are you coming home? People are asking questions. I watched Clayton's border collie guide, a stubborn heifer, moving with instinct no one questioned. Maybe I'm having a breakdown, I said. This is absurd, Douglas. You have a real job, benefits, a future. Doing what? Counting lures forever, providing for us, being responsible. Not everyone plays cowboy. The wordplay stung, her same dismissive tone. I'll be home Sunday, I said, hanging up. But Sunday, I stayed. I told my manager I needed a week for a family emergency, not entirely false. My marriage was in crisis. Clayton was patient, praising progress. By week 2, I could rope for branding. By week 3, I checked fences and water solar. You've got instincts, he said one evening on his porch, sun sinking. City folks force things. You listen. When I returned home, Lydia had divorce papers ready. Really? I asked, eyeing the envelope. 3 weeks playing ranch hand while I tell everyone you're having a midlife crisis, she said. I've been working, learning. You've been dodging responsibility. She sat, hands folded like a boardroom exec. Sophia thinks you're punishing me for the prank. The prank. I nearly laughed. It was harmless, she said. We came back the next morning, but you were gone. Figured you hitched home. News to me. You came back. Of course. We're not cruel, Douglas. 3 weeks of real work, respect, purpose and, she thought it was about her. Sign the papers, she said. I keep the house. You keep your truck. Clean break. I held the envelope. What if I don't want a clean break? Then come home, get your job back, act like an adult. The choice was clear. Return to inventory and her lectures, or keep learning from people who valued me. I need time, I said. You've had 3 weeks. I left the papers and drove back to the ranch. Clayton, checking a mare in the barn, asked, how'd it go? She wants a divorce. He nodded. Some can't handle others changing, makes them question themselves. 6 months later, I signed the papers after Clayton offered me foreman, with housing and profit shares. Less pay than retail, but it came with respect. Lydia kept the house. I kept my truck tools, and a hidden savings account. I shed the need to prove myself to those who'd dismissed me. Ranch work fit. I learned weather patterns, breeding cycles, supplier negotiations. Clayton connected me with other ranchers, and I picked up seasonal work. Steady progress toward being a problem solver, not a problem. Lydia and Sophia moved to Missoula post-divorce, chasing spa weekends and wealthy men, per friends. My old co-worker Jake visited, sharing Lydia's updates. She's thriving, he'd say, living her best life. I'd nod, offer a beer, noting he never spoke of his own life, still counting lures, still stuck. In my second winter, fixing fences in a blizzard, I realized Lydia hadn't crossed my mind in weeks. 5 years of marriage should have left a deeper mark. But I'd mourned the wrong loss. I wasn't grieving how I was celebrating finding myself. Clayton, nearing retirement, mentioned selling to developers. His kids, in California, wanted no part of ranching. I offered to buy the ranch on a long-term plan, using profits and my salary. Big risk, he said. I'm sure, I replied. This is my life. Your ex no. She doesn't need to. He nodded. Some can't stand seeing others succeed, especially those they pegged as failures. 3 months of paperworks, inspections, water rights talks, and I owned 800 acres overlooking the Yellowstone River Valley. At 37, I was home. The ranch thrived. I expanded the herd, refined pastures, and guided elk hunts, booking clients a year out. Success brought attention. Jake called one summer. Lydia's asking about you. Surprised you're still ranching that evening, in Billings for supplies. I saw their Honda. Lydia and Sophia exited the grocery store, dressed for show, not shopping. They froze, then approached. Douglas, Lydia said, like greeting a stranger. You look different. 3 years of ranch work had hardened my hands, broadened my shoulders, lengthened my hair. Different how? Older, serious, she eyed my truck, loaded with feed. Still playing rancher. Still ranching, Sophia smirked. Heard you bought Clayton's place. True, true. Lydia's voice sharpened. You worked retail, counted lures. Work, decisions, luck. She stared, uncomprehending. People like us don't own ranches. Normal people. I closed the tailgate. Maybe I was never as normal as you thought. Sophia's laugh was hollow. This is just you overreacting to our prank. You mean abandoning me? It was supposed to be funny, Lydia said. We came back, but you were gone. I looked at them, still convinced their cruelty was a joke. I learned a lesson, I said, just not yours. I drove away, their figures shrinking in my mirror, debating how the man they'd stranded now owned land. Jake later said their Missoula dreams fizzled. Sophia laid off. Their wealthy men not so rich. They shared a Billings apartment, working retail. Lydia at a department store, Sophia at a makeup kiosk. I saw Lydia while getting insurance notarized, folding sweaters, her name tag gleaming, exhaustion in her eyes. I parked out front, walked in. She saw me, her face flickering surprise, recognition, shame. Douglas, heard you were in town. Ranch business, I said, noting her glance at my sturdy boots, quality jacket. You look prosperous. Ranchers strong. Expanded the herd, added land. She paused. Good for you. I picked up a sweater. Remember saying you'd see how smart I was. You were right. I'm smart enough to turn betrayal into opportunity, to learn from people who see potential, to build something real. She checked for listeners. You're causing a scene. I'm stating truth. You thought stranding me would humble me. It taught me freedom. You showed me your limits, not mine. I left, drove home, and sat on my porch, beer in hand, watching the sunset over my land. Lydia never reached out again. Jake said she and Sophia chased dreams in Great Falls, still in retail, still waiting for validation. I married Claire, a veterinarian who valued my work, and we built a life of respect. That dumpster night cold humiliated. Lydia thought I was limited, dreaming too big. She was wrong, but right about one thing. I found out how smart I was, smart enough to see cruelty as a gift, to walk away from those who mistook my patience for weakness. Lydia and Sophia's prank cost them access to my stability, turning their mockery into my triumph. Sometimes the cruelest gift is someone showing you how little they value you, because once you stop proving them wrong, you're free to prove yourself right. If you loved this story, hit the like button and share it with someone who needs to know betrayal has consequences. Comment below about a time you turned adversity into strength. Subscribe to Revenge with Arion for more stories of secrets, justice, and moments that redefine everything.